The following is a conversation with Bianca Acusar. Bianca Acusar is a sophomore in Velez College and currently taking up Bachelor of Science in Medical Technology. In this conversation, we dive deep in love, death, friendship, and online school. This is the Consortium podcast hosted by Daphne Jen P. Haralve, and here is my conversation with Bianca Acusar. Good morning, Bianca. Ay, good
Good morning.
afternoon.
Good afternoon, Daphne.
So first of all, I want to compliment your jacket. It looks
Oh,
nice.
thank you. My mom bought it.
Uh,
So, like, she made sure na it's nice. Good. Yeah, I
mm,
haven't really worn this a lot, especially since,
mm,
the weather here in the
in the
Philippines is
Philippines.
hot.
Mm.
And yeah, now we can't go out anymore. So, yeah, I wanted to make use of it now.
So right now we'll be having the consortium podcast. So thank you so much for joining in. And then I'll be asking you following questions and then you can answer them. So my first question is that how are you right now, especially when you are in your sophomore year in BS MedTech?
Okay. So, um, regards with the sophomore year, it's it's basically the start pa. So, for me, and for others as well. So we just had like an orientation week. So there aren't any lessons or assignments or projects that we have to do. So it's been pretty chill. But since I'm already second year and I kind of know already like the ropes of what it means to be a student in Velez. I know nga it's gonna get um a bit more hectic and also very stressful as time progresses since like the ano the course really demands a lot from you. And in general, I'm feeling okay lang. Like there are days when I feel like pretty chill lang yun. Like there's not really a care in the world. But there are also days when I feel like I just get hit with the reality of this pandemic and how depressing it can actually be. And that makes me sad because it's taken a lot of experiences that we could have had and shared with other people to make our lives more vibrant and lively. And Daph, I'd like to throw back the question to you. How do you feel right
For me, I feel sad because we haven't experienced the full college life because of the online setup. And then we lost I think the most important part of college, which is networking and getting to know our professors deeply, not just through a computer screen. And then the important conversations from the classroom to the hallways and those small chit chats that
now?
would
Yeah,
possibly happen throughout the school year, supposedly last school year. So aside from the online setup, what do you think, like, what what was the biggest transition that happened between senior high to college?
without like even the online setup, I feel
Mm,
like the biggest transition is that our workload is heavier.
mm,
And like example for senior high, it was stressful but not as stressful as now. Like the deadlines were very far apart and we could usually like negotiate. Like if we think na these two deadlines are too close to each other, we could request or ask the teacher to move it a bit to postpone it a bit. For college, I guess like we can do that for some, but we can't do it as freely as um, back in senior high because now we have to take more into account the schedule of like our teachers because they're not only teachers but there can be like doctors or mga medical technologists jud. So they're juggling a lot of things at once. And another thing that differs from senior high and college is that you learn or you kind of get um, thrown into this circumstance now you have to be more independent. in senior high, sometimes they remind you nga, oh, you have to pass this, oh, we have a test next week like this. But in college, you have to be able to take note of all these details yourself. They'll just give you a guide, but it's up to you how you manage your time and how you meet the deadlines and fulfill your duties and responsibilities. Because that's what they expect of humans. Like the more you grow older, um, the more reliable and independent you're expected to be.
That is really well said, especially that I think like in this pandemic, it's really hard to negotiate because some of them have jobs to do and some of them have existing meetings that are happening aside from our classes, that they, not just us who needs to manage our time, but including our instructors and our professors who need also to manage their time and their responsibilities. So in your video, in your blog, in your first video or your Q&A, which talks about your first year experience in college, you told the audience that you felt like being thrown in a raging river. So how did you, like, metaphorically or abstractly, or even like in simple terms, how did you navigate through the raging river?
So for those who don't know, I just recently started my own YouTube channel. It's called Bianca Acusar, and the video that Daphne is referring to is my first video. It's a sit-down video of me answering various questions of what I went through when I was still in the first year of medical technology in Velez. And yeah, like honestly, at first, the raging river, it's like I was thrown into it. Like, pag start pa lang of the first sem, I was thrown into it and I really didn't know what to do. Like, it felt like I was drowning in that raging river. And, in the raging river, like, the currents, um, they beat you up. Like, they really bring you, um, let you get hit by this rock. And you really, like, lose your way. So there's lots of obstacles. But the way that I was able to navigate it, I feel, was through the help of my various classmates, especially the friends I already had beforehand. Because I had like a couple of friends from Ateneo, where I went to senior high, who were also taking up medical technology, who were in the same course as me. So, kumbaga, they're like the ones who were on this really safe boat and they brought like mga life vests and pulled me out of that raging river so that we can navigate the mania, the navigate um it's navigate all the dangers together. But it's not only like my friends. There was also like my family members wherein like I could like communicate with them and they'd also help me with things that I didn't understand about the course because my parents, they're both in the medical field, so they were a big help in guiding me uh, to really memorize and master the lessons that we had to um, all the lessons that we had to learn. So that was a really big factor. And navigating that raging river, I had to bring out courage also within me because it's not enough that you rely on other people to save you, but you also have to look into yourself and be courageous and learn to overcome um, your fears. So at first, like I wasn't really a fan of the idea that we had to keep studying all the time because with medical technology, there's a lot of things to memorize and um, it, and there's a lot of things to really master. So I wasn't a fan of like studying like super super hard. But then the more that I got to do it, like the easier it became. So it's like I was able to face the fear and really like conquer it. And yeah, like it wasn't easy. It's never going to be easy. But like as I said in my first YouTube video, you never really know. Um, you're always gonna get surprised with your capabilities. When you think something is impossible, but as long as you try to tackle it, it will become more and more possible to do. For example, like um, there's like this very long exam that you have to study for, and the coverage is 3 topics. So you think to yourself like, oh my god, how am I going to um, be able to study this properly when we still have other commitments? So you think it's very impossible, but you also tell yourself that you have to try to make an effort to really um, conquer it, like to really do your best in achieving that goal of being able to study everything. So once that happens, and after your exam, and you get your results and everything, then you think to yourself like, ay, kaya pa man di ay to. Like, ay, why was I worrying man? Like, why was I stressing out? So you see, it's like by um like by fighting all your like inhibitions, and then am I saying it right? Inhibitions.
Ah,
So
yes.
by fighting those, the impossible will really become possible, and you would be able to really say to yourself na, I was able to do it. You'd be able to be proud of yourself.
That's so true that you might think that it is impossible to do by looking at it, but once it's done, it's actually possible. And then speaking about tests, for me, I don't check the results of the test immediately. So for example, if the test were I usually if it's a test and it has multiple choice, what I do is that I close the tab right immediately once I press submit so that I can't really see my score yet. I only check my scores at night when I don't want to be I because what I felt during the first part of the semester is that once you press submit, you see your score and then it might ruin the whole duration, the whole your whole day instead of having a strong foundation to move forward and go do better. So like to connect with your previous point about the raging river. So like I remember this quote about raging rivers is that a river cuts through rock not because of its power, but it's because of its persistence. So, speaking about persistence, your persistence in this time is studying, right? So, what is like the study habit that you would like to preach upon?
Okay. The study habit that I'd like to preach upon. Um, when I look back at how I studied before, I would say that it was effective, but it wasn't healthy. It would, since I have like perfectionist like tendencies, the case would be like I would do assignments or study like the whole day and forget to take proper breaks. Of course, I would go to the CR, I drink water, I eat, but not the breaks wherein I would rest my eyes and walk around and feel calm. Like there's always this sense of urgency to finish what you started, to finish everything in one whole day. So I totally forgot nga. You don't have to do that. You don't have to um achieve everything in one go. Because when you do so, you forget to enjoy the process of reaching your goal. Because what you have in mind naman lang is just, oh, I have to finish this, I have to complete this. But you don't think about um what um what the assignment or what the lesson is really trying to teach you. You're just thinking of meeting the deadline that you set for yourself. You're not really thinking about learning it thoroughly. So the study habit that I would like to preach more about, especially to apply for myself as well, is to really take proper breaks. Because, like, for example, if you're like an engine who keeps on running, then when the car gets broken down and the engine gets broken down, it's really so hard to like fix it back up. Whereas if you're an engine and then whenever um you're always like turned off like properly and turned on in a like in a specific time, the car will run smoothly. It's something like that, I feel. In my previous video, I mentioned like my study habit was memorizing with color and all that, and um, going over the material again and again. But apart from that, taking um, enough breaks is what I'd want to remind everyone to do. So, how about you, Daph? Like, were you able to take enough breaks last school year? Or
For the previous school year, I think for me, that's my really biggest issue, especially that it feels like the whole day is truly dedicated for school. And
mm,
then you really have a difficulty in finding that margin that you need to take a break. But for this school year, I really hope that I can really apply resting and taking a break and resting, and additionally resting that not resting for a long time that you procrastinate, but
mm,
resting to the in a sense that it is more effective in your productivity.
yeah.
So my next question is that, do you ever complain or whine that what we're experiencing right now is a very different college life compared to your older brothers and siblings?
Mm. Usually, when I'd complain or whine, because it's a way of to let out stress, diba? To my friends and to my family members, kay, I would always say, oh, this is so hard. Oh, this is so complicated. Then, Maita, we did this face to face. It would have been way easier. So, like, usually all my complaints, even though I don't really voice it out, nga, even though I don't really voice it out, it always goes back to how we're stuck in this online setting. In the first sem, since a lot of it was like theory based lessons, all we had to do was really like we could really just read and reread the material and then you'd get it. But later on, when we had to do more laboratory work, more practical things, because as medical technologists, diba, like we usually are the ones who extract blood. Um, Later on, we'd be the ones to analyze the mga fecal or urine samples, like things like that, for doctors to be able to diagnose like what's wrong with the patient. Kay, it would have really been better if we were in a face-to-face setting, because that's the best way to learn, man. Like, not pure memorization, but you're learning through your experience. It's really what's going to stick in your mind. And yeah, like it's a shame lang that's what we lack right now.
That is so true, especially when laboratories, and then especially the situation that we're in, that we cannot still go to school and do our lab works. And then for me, I haven't really went into my university. How about you?
Yeah,
Have you
yours
went
is
in
an I've
USC?
only I've only gone in Velez for the entrance exam.
entrance exam.
Mm,
So that's the saddest part for me, that
yeah.
a lot of students haven't really went inside their colleges, and I don't really see the a great light that the pandemic would end within the year.
Mm,
So you
mm.
spoke about venting out. What are the assurances that it won't ruin your day?
Like, you mean complaining? Like,
Ah,
how it would
yes.
ruin like the
Yeah.
day? Usually to make sure it won't really be a downer on the day, kay, you put a pause to how much you complain about or vent out. Like, it you have to set a limit for yourself. I can't just go complaining all the time and not do anything about it. I feel like it's okay to complain and it won't ruin your day if you really use it as a means to release like pent up stress. But in the end, um you're still going to do your best for your mga commitments. Venting out or complaining is bad when you do it but there's no follow up. Like, you don't um try to improve the situation you're in, and it would just make you out to be spoiled and lazy, which is bad. So to assure yourself good na your venting out has like a purpose is to make sure nga you then put us you then put yourself into a situation wherein you don't have to complain about what you're complaining anymore. You have to resolve the problem you're complaining about so that it won't bother you anymore. How about you, Daph? What do you think?
I think for me is that what I do when I vent out is that I don't, if it's not a really big issue, I try to write it down on a piece of paper and
Mm,
release all the feelings that I'm feeling, not release them out on Twitter where everyone can see, because it hurt someone,
mm, mm,
might really hurt someone and ruin their day, instead of just me venting out for the sake of releasing my stress and my inner thoughts. So, and then for me, the the worst part of venting out is that you have your conscious will tell you that to give up or be comfortable, and this course or this situation that you're in, you don't deserve it. That negativity will pull you down and make you more pessimistic in
mm,
the view of your life. So what I what I do again is to write it down on a piece of paper instead of venting it out towards others, because it might hurt them.
mm, mm,
But the biggest critic that I usually have is usually myself, my inner demons who tells me that you don't deserve this. It somewhat feels like an imposter syndrome, but it's more hardcore, I might say, because usually I run. That's when I feel
mm,
the motive or the voice who's telling me that, Daph, you have to give up. Daph, you pussy, you can't run this far. But what I do, what I really do is that I talk to my really, it sounds weird, but I talk to myself. I say that
that's fine.
you don't know me, and you have no capability to tell me what am I going to do, which relates to our previous point on, it is impossible what you look at it, but it is possible when you done it already. So
Mm,
right now, I think you have seen my Instagram posts. I've been
yes.
posting 4 a.m. I wake up at 4 a.m. It's a really
Mm,
proud habit that I actually improved upon, because
I used to be a night owl, but I really
Mm,
wanted to shift that mindset to be to be a morning person because I feel like it's more calm and it's more stress free because no one's still awake.
mm-mm.
And then what I really see in the morning is a beautiful sunrise. It feels like I
Yeah.
earned it instead of seeing it without context. So knowing you since grade 11, habitually I see you as a morning person. From the canteen, you're already studying or maybe working on your essay. Do you think that being a morning person is a advantage or a disadvantage?
I believe being a morning person is definitely an advantage because when you sleep early and wake up early, it just gives you, like you said, like a feeling of calm and chill when you get in touch with your surroundings and your environment. There's no rush to, like, when you just suddenly wake up and think like, oh my god, I slept in, like, oh my god, I've woken up like so late. I'm going to miss this. I have to do this. I have to do this. Like when you wake up early, like you set a routine for yourself to be a morning person. It you feel better when you wake up in the morning, and when you start off in a good mood, then that's usually gonna carry over like to your whole day. And being a morning person, it allows you to get things more things done. I would say if usually like I would wake up mga 6 o'clock, 6 to 7. It's not as early as you, but I think it's pretty early, sad. And yeah, like I get to fully enjoy my breakfast, and I'm able to do my morning skincare routine, and it's just very therapeutic, like to have like these little rituals, and it's really going to prepare you for what's ahead during the day. So that's the great part about being a morning person. It puts you in a good mood, and you're able to accomplish so much more. And especially since it's bright out, kaysa when you do stuff at night or at dawn, kay it not only like affects your eyes, kay for us like looking at screens and everything, but it also for me personally, like you really feel tired. Like the night and like um early morning, like dawn, it's conditioned in me already nga it's rest time. So yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah, especially for me is that I used to be a night owl, but
Mm,
what really changed my perspective towards being a morning person is that, as I said earlier, it is more calm and relaxing to do things ahead of other people. And then it feels like there are lesser
mm,
distractions because everyone's still asleep. And then also what shifted me is that what I originally thought is that to be a morning person is that you have to wake up early. That's a no for me, but you have to sleep early to wake up
mm,
early. I think that is the wrong connotation of other people on regards of being a morning person. And then we don't preach if you're really flexible at night, do your own thing. Don't follow our footsteps. It's
yeah,
very different from from person to person.
true.
So now is that right after medtech, what are your plans in life? And if you want to pursue medicine, what would be the specialization that you would like to take?
I've always thought nga it's best when planado, everything is like planado na. Like you like to set everything in stone. But recently I've realized nga it's okay to be unsure, and it's okay to not know. So for my plans, I'm actually still not sure. Um whether or not to, after graduating MT, to work right away as an MT or to pursue med right away. Most likely it's the latter, but then again, there are so many uncertainties in life, and usually the decision you're supposed to make shows up when you least expect it or shows up at the last moment. Sometimes it shows up when you've made a decision already, like what decision you should have made. So for me, that's how I see it. Like I am trying to take life as it comes and not really focus on figuring out what to do next because it might change. Like I thought sad like for specialization, like um I considered like derma, I considered hemo-onco, so that's like blood and cancer, mga those things. But now like I'm not so sure. So it's always changing. And you shouldn't expect yourself to really stick to one thing because your interests change man yun. Then you can't help it. So um I believe that it's really best and wise um to like trust in the process that it will lead you to where you're supposed to be. But that doesn't mean that you can just be idle. Like it doesn't mean nga I won't really think about it kay like bahala na lang, like whatever works. You have you're supposed to have like these mga options. Like keep these options in mind. Know what's next for you. Be open to different opportunities. And then when the time comes, um when the time comes, that opportunity the opportunity meant for you will be open to you. Did I make sense for that?
Yes, you did make sense.
For you, what do you think about ano about like especially with your course? Like do you have like set goals na or is it like me nga you're still open?
For my situation, I think that I have a 5-year plan for myself because I think planning is really a good practice to do. But as you mentioned earlier, so be open with other different opportunities that would open towards you. For my plan is that I have set until yet I graduate, which is 2025. So after that, I plan to take an MBA course while taking masters at the same time. But it doesn't mean that I'm open for different opportunities. I might possibly take a medicine course or possibly taking law, which I still don't
Mm,
know. It always depends on the situation you are in,
yeah.
on what you plan to actually do in that certain moment, to look at life far beyond wherein you say that I truly lived on what I really wanted to live on. So
Yeah.
one thing that is set in stone is death. You can't
Mm,
escape death.
yeah.
So do you ponder on your own existence in this tiny planet?
I have before. Like I feel like when I was in late grade school or even like in junior high, like I'd I'd ask myself like, why am I here, you know? And sometimes you'd even think like when things don't go your way, like 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 what if I just like disappeared. I'm not sure if like others felt that way, but I definitely did. But now I don't I don't ponder on my being and my existing anymore, because I came to terms with how we are very small in this world because the universe is so vast. And I just um how do you say it? Like I said before, like I take life as it comes now. Like I don't I try to not complicate like my mentality anymore, because when I thought about it, it really like troubles you. And it would really like affect, it would even come to the point where it would affect like the way you acted. But yeah, like now, like I'm learning to not overthink it, because and to just like those um let all that wondering go, because I accepted na um my existence here is just it's it's special, but it's also not. Like it's not special because you're not the only one in this world. There are like billions of humans, and you don't know pa like in other planets, if ever. But it's also special because um of how you make life to be, your life to be. So yeah, even talking about it now, like I'm wondering like, oh my god, like it's confusing. So that's why like right now I don't really ponder on it too much, and I know worry about it, because in the end you're not gonna get a definite answer as to why you're here, kid. So might as well just be, just exist, just live the way that you want to. And
Yeah, so what you mentioned earlier about perfectionism is that it is a good habit for the performance of our productivity. But the saddest part in achieving perfectionism is that you can't achieve perfectionism in your lifetime, because sometimes life will cut you short, or sometimes you can't reach the level that you aspire to achieve.
yeah,
So that for me is the scariest part about death. And then on a personal level, I feel like the scariest part of death is that a person that you love might you can't talk to already. That person just belongs in your memory. You can't hear his or her or their voice, but rather he or she or they might be just be in your head, reminiscing on the memories that you have. So now let's speak something that is kind of opposite about death, is that let's talk about love. So you recently turned 20 years old. Did your view on love change or evolve?
yes, of course. Like it's not um an overnight thing. It was pretty gradual, and I didn't really realize it until I thought hard about it. Like before, your view on love is based on um what you see in movies, what you see in shows, based on your surroundings. But now, I feel like my view on love is deeper, because it's I don't know, it's supposed to transcend um superficial matters. Like for me, love now is unexpected. Like it's kind of cheesy, but for me, it's really unexpected. Not only like relationship wise, but also um with like your friends and your family. Sometimes you don't really feel it, but you know it's there. Like I know, like in the case of um friends, love is very low maintenance and low key. Because I believe that a great friendship is really being able to keep in touch and stay close as friends. Um like without putting too much effort into it. And with family, love is very unconditional. Sometimes you don't feel it because we're raised from different families that different families express love um in various forms. But yeah, um it's it's it will be shown in it's really shown in like the little things that your family member does to you or what you do to your family member. Sometimes even like fighting with your sibling or arguing with your parent, that's a form of love in a sense because it shows that you care. And in the case of relationships, it's really um it's really like what I said, like really unexpected. Because before you'd think na a relationship is supposed to be like this, a relationship is supposed to be um uh like that. But it's like you really don't know until you're in one. And for me, like love in a relationship, it's like it should really be in a deeper sense nga, um when you put down your walls with each other, and then you'd be able to have a connection that's deeper yun than infatuation only. Like when you it's it's very like how will I say this? It's I hope it doesn't come off in the wrong way, but in the of relationships, it's really like you also have to lower your standards or your expectations because not everybody is going to be who you envision them to be. Like not everyone nor like is gonna ano meet all your what you listed in your checklist of being like this perfect person. So it's really just forgiveness and acceptance and making things work, like compromise. So it goes the same set for like family and also for friends. But yeah, like that's what also really makes relationships more meaningful, I feel. And for love with ano with God, like if ever you believe in God, like you have a religion, um it's it's supposed to be peaceful. And the things you do to glorify your God should um correspond yun to proper values and understanding. Like you have to understand um what's being taught to you about your faith and apply it uh, for the betterment of um of the people you come in contact with, because it's really best to treat others with kindness. Yeah. For
And
you, Daph.
for me is that I think you said everything what I would like to say about love. But to add on your point is that to add 2 points to your previous points is that I really love my dog, and then there's a weird love
Ay,
in
difference sa
that
mga
relationship.
animals.
L- And then it's not something that you have to present yourself being perfect to the dog or your cat, but rather they still love you on who you truly are. And then on my second point is that right now, what truly evolved in my view on love is that love is not being equal or someone's being greater than you or someone being lower, but rather it's being less and full, which in both of you supports each other to fill
Yeah.
in on your lack mate on your lacking. And then speaking about love, do you think as a female, do you think is that do you think that playing hard to get playing hard to get game is harder in our generation?
I think so, because everything and everyone can be so accessible right away. Like, we've entered into this new culture where that has been influenced heavily by social media. So it's like with social media, you can meet and discover all kinds of people in different websites and apps. And since you're used to having everything fast paced, diba? Like, we're used to apps running really smoothly, having great internet. Like, that's really um, what I think everybody looks forward to. Then you'd, I think people would also apply that being fast paced into relationships. Like, um, for me, like a lot of people feel the need. You don't have to go through such like a grueling process of getting to know someone when it can be done like right away. And yeah, since we live in a very fast paced world, then it's no surprise that the people in that world are also fast paced. So chivalry, it's like there's some who practice it, but it's not really a common thing anymore, because like different culture naman also um like it goes with like being equals, like what you said. Like it doesn't have to be a very slow getting to know you nga the guy would go to your house pa, like all those things. Like um girls can also make a move, and it's not it's not weird anymore. So it's a good thing nga we're treating each other as equals now. But the bad thing is, well, of course, like um social media is a very big place, and um sometimes you won't really it's, you can't really trust everybody you meet. So there are really gonna be those dangerous people out there. So everybody has to be careful.
Yes, that's definitely right. Especially when love is gamified in the sense that you want to, for example, you dated someone already and then you want to look for another person because you want
Mm.
to, it somewhat feels like an upgrade from the previous one, which is totally wrong because love is not,
Mm.
was mentioned earlier, is that it doesn't add to your self worth, but it improves your self-worth
Mm.
totally. And then speaking about hard to get is that, yeah, you already mentioned that everything's fast paced, and then everyone is easily be contacted through, may it be messenger or a short text message. But back then, the hard to get game was is a really
Mm.
great game to play because it proves that that person has a life aside from you.
Being hard to get, it's it can be both good and bad thing.
Mm.
Like it's good now you're trying to feel out like um where your relationship is heading to, like what you're getting into, should you enter into something with this person. But it's also bad if you're doing it to bully the one who's pursuing you. And if you're doing so just so you want attention, so you have to look into yourself if you're the one playing hard to get, like um what you intend with your actions. It's not good. Nah, the other person would suffer because of um what you're doing.
I feel like I was targeted with that message because I'm
Oh
too
my god.
lazy. I'm too lazy to reply and to chat when I'm interested on another person. So now let's talk about sleep.
Okay.
So how was your sleep last night or the previous days?
Recently, di ba, usually I've mentioned nga I'm a morning person. And di ba, to be a morning person, you have to also sleep early. I haven't been sleeping as early as I usually have. Like right now, I've been sleeping like mga 12 a.m., like 11 to 12 instead of like 10 to 11. And I think it's because I want to kind of um consume like media as much as I can before um lessons and schoolwork pile up. How about your sleep, Daph?
I think for my sleep, I think it's better. But one thing to comment about sleep is that for me is that I really, especially once the topic is really interesting or something that I'm really into, is that it feels good to pull off an all-nighter. Do you agree or disagree? Not when you cram, but something that you are really interested on. For example, may it be a K-drama series or a TV series. Does it feel good for
Mm.
you?
I've only done an all-nighter like once or
Mm.
twice. So for me, bawal jud all-nighter. Like basta you get even like 1 hour or 2 hours sleep. Like I'd always like if I'm binging something, I make sure jud na, oh, in this episode you'll stop na. So that I won't go overboard and it won't really affect my health as much as I want to already like to keep going. Because like I said, it's really best jud nga naa jud kay break.
Oh, yes. And then, like, the great thing about, for me, you don't have to agree with me with this, is that the good
Okay.
thing about all-nighters probably is that you fall into madness and the great amounts of creativity that you're falling in love with the subject that you're studying, may it be or a TV series or maybe a movie. Is that if doc if that the sleep doesn't really matter because you're sacrificing a qualitative aspect that you want to improve upon. And then
Mm.
from my notes here is that you know you are in love in what you're doing when you
Mm.
can't fall asleep because reality is finally better than your dreams. That was said by Dr. Seuss.
Okay, I get it. Like when it's not an all-nighter, but when I've tried like studying until like the
Mm,
wee hours of the morning na,
mm,
and your senses get heightened. I
Mm,
feel like you're sometimes you get more alert
mm,
because you're dealing with so much more time on your hands,
mm.
and it's something unusual but also exciting. So I get what you mean.
There's a special feeling of excitement to know
Mm,
something or something that you would like to reveal, that you are willingly to sacrifice today and tomorrow to learn that, I to learn or to get to know something that you are
yeah.
really interested upon.
Mm, mm, mm.
So right now you started a YouTube channel, right? So what
Yes.
is your YouTube channel about?
Okay. So um I originally planned nga it's just going to be medtech content because like at what I said before, we pag um last school year we started doing more practical things, and then we call those like return demonstrations. So for example, extracting of blood, instead of actually doing it on a person, we did it on a banana. Yeah. So yeah, like ano, like I I feel like we're going to have that this school year, especially since as you go to higher year level, things are gonna get harder. So I wanted it to be medtech content only, but I don't know. Like I think it's going to be a mix of medtech content, but also personal content, like about my life here at home. And aside from like right now, aside from the Q&A I did, I posted another video, which was my birthday vlog. And at first, I wasn't planning good on doing the personal stuff because I'm usually a private person. But I felt like it would be nice to share. It would be a nice remembrance, like to have everything documented. And there are also those who, for example, like are not in my house right now, like other family members who would like to see how our life is going on here. So it's not only for me, but also for those who would view. And hopefully, like, not only me, but also those who would view would get to learn something from what I put out. So that's what my YouTube channel is all about.
So what you mentioned earlier about videos is that your YouTube videos, it somewhat serves as a time machine, sort of, where
Yeah.
you can reminisce and have nostalgic feelings towards on the previous events that happened
Mm-mm.
in the past. And then what you mentioned earlier is that it also gives an insight towards your family members who don't
Mm-mm.
live in your same household.
Or also friends who'd love to
Mm,
see what's going on.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when there is still lack of
Yeah,
face-to-face
yeah.
conversations, which is so sad. So,
How about you, Daph, like with this podcast?
for my podcast is that aside from that, it somewhat feels like a catch up
Mm,
from my high school friends. It obviously started from my close friends, Kelvin,
mm-mm.
Ethan, and
Mm-mm.
Kale, and probably Agbay in the near future.
Yeah, yeah,
And then it somewhat feels like a productive and effective conversation because sometimes if it's not
yeah. Mm,
recorded or there's a topic that would follow through, it would usually fall into nonsense and random
okay, okay.
random junk that would that would not be productive and not benefit on the conversation. So yeah,
Mm-mm.
so it's fun and it's a great time also to catch up with one another.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
So now, like, is there anything that you fear or you fear not to do or to do?
Hmm. With starting a YouTube channel and you know, um, studying in college, I kind of fear like what other people think of me with what I'm doing right now, which is not good because having that insecurity would really mess with your head, and it'll lead you to not enjoy life as much as you could. So I fear, so I have to also conquer that fear and always remind myself na not everybody's out to get you. Like, um, more often than not, people in this world, especially those who are close to you, either um, people in this world who are not close to you, they don't care. But those who are close to you would usually always root for you. And sometimes they won't agree with what you do, or they won't totally understand it, but their opinion, while it can guide you, it shouldn't affect you negatively because you know yourself best. And if it's what makes you happy, then right, like um, what other people think shouldn't matter. And fear, diba, of what I haven't done. What ba to da?
Ah, yes.
What I haven't done. Hmm, well, I kind of fear not not having kanang I have a fear that I won't be able to do the fun stuff that I want to do in the future. Like it's so uncertain naman, like life right now. Like I've wanted to travel pa to different places in the world and to experience all these experiences. And I fear not being able to do so, not only because of the pandemic right now, but also because of like I don't because of the possibility that um of becoming like a workaholic. Like you ano you subconsciously or unconsciously like prioritize working or your career, and you forget about um the other the finer like the other fine things in life as well. And it's not only traveling in my case, but also connecting with other people.
For me is that I think like my greatest fear right now is that I fear to not say that I to say things that I really have to say. Fear to say that my friends are good, are okay ba, or they're having a hard time because the life is so short that sometimes you might forget them, or you forget that they're still here with you, and then soon enough they won't be here. May it be my family, my friends. So what advice can you give to high school students, college students, or people who are taking up a career in the near future?
Mm. So advice to those still trying to you know fulfill um their education is to be diligent. Don't take for granted um the blessing that you have right now to get an education, but also don't forget that don't forget to take it slow. Don't forget to um have fun with things. Like don't take things too seriously. And yeah, like um that they should always learn to balance um to balance their education and also their personal life. I feel like, as Asians, that's kind of, we struggle with that because in our, it's tradition for us Asians to focus a lot on education. But yeah, um, we can break out of the stereotype and we can rise above it.
So that's definitely true that to 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 nourish and to reminisce the small moments in life, not just focus on one aspect, but whereas to focus on the tiny parts, because that's where usually beauty resides or
Yeah, yeah,
memorable moments can happen.
yeah.
So we spoke so many things about online class, love, death, and even friendship. Do you know what for you is the meaning of life?
Okay. The meaning of life for me is a case to case basis. It depends on each person. So the meaning of life is to breathe, ano, is to breathe some form of meaning into your own life. For me, that's the meaning of life. Like, because each of us has a different purpose, has a different vocation, and your life becomes meaningful when you fulfill it yourself. Like, what is destined for you, you'll really um reach for it yourself. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say. Basta it's like the meaning of life is to um put meaning into it in your own way.
Yeah.
And no one can tell you
Hmm.
otherwise, like how you should do it.
Because I think like for me is that the meaning of life probably is the pursuance of meaning itself. The meaning,
Yeah.
what you said earlier of your existence, and then the fulfillment of may it be your dreams and your aspirations.
Mm-mm.
So would you mind if I would read a poem to end the podcast?
No, I don't mind. Go.
So the poem is entitled Bluebird by Charles Bukowski. There's a bluebird in my heart that wants to get out, but I'm too tough for him. I say, stay in there. I'm not going to let anybody see you. There's a bluebird in my heart that wants to get out, but I pour whiskey on him and inhale cigarette smoke and whores and the bartenders and grocery clerks. Never know that he's in there. There's a bluebird in my heart that wants to get out, but I'm too tough for him. I say, stay down. Do you want to mess me up? You want to screw you want to screw up the works? You want to blow my book sales in Europe? There's a bluebird in my heart that wants to get out, but I'm too clever. I only let him out at night sometimes when everybody's asleep. I say, I know that you are in there, so don't be sad. Then I put him back, but he's singing a little in there. I haven't let him die, and we sleep together like that with our secret path. And it's nice enough to make a man weep, but I don't weep, do you? Thank you so much, Bianca, for joining my podcast, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you for having me. It was really um a great chat. I wish you the best as well.